Hi, I'm Mark Traphagen, Vice President of Product Marketing and Training for SEO Clarity. SEO Clarity is an enterprise-level SEO platform using artificial intelligence to be your analyst and assistant on your SEO team. Really grateful to be with you today and excited to show you some things that we're seeing in the search engine results these days. Google SERP features that have been around for a while, some you haven't seen before, and especially some statistics, some information on how much they're affecting our search efforts, our SEO efforts, that you won't see anywhere else. So without any further ado, let's dive into the rabbit hole. So one thing that we've all known, if we've been around search for a while, is that it's no longer our parent SERPs. It's not the 10 blue links that we knew years ago. It hasn't been that for a long, long time. We know that increasingly, just even from our own experience as consumers of search, as users of search, that Google has been putting more and more features into the search results beyond the traditional 10 blue organic web links. And there's many of those that we would all know and recognize, and so I'm only going to cover them briefly here. I mean, certainly first ads. Ads used to be almost not a concern at all for us in SEO, in organic search. But then a number of years ago, Google began to move them into the main column above and below the organic search results, and they began to take up real estate. And that's the key concept, because much of what I'm going to be talking about with you today is about search real estate and moving our thinking from ranking to real estate. So ads were kind of the first combatant in that war, pushing down our organic search results from the top. And then, of course, probably the next most familiar is featured snippets in all of their manifestations. So featured snippet, of course, takes a snippet from an existing website and presents it as an immediate answer to the user's question, usually at or near the top of the web results, again, pushing down all the other web results, and maybe or maybe not resulting in a click for the site from which the information was taken. More recently, but still a few years old, we've seen people also ask. These are becoming more and more familiar, where Google presents us with related questions to whatever we searched for. And when you click on one of those, it reveals some web information, very often an embedded featured snippet even there. So each of these becomes a featured snippet. We've seen image blocks and carousels. Images first appeared in Google when they implemented what they called universal search, which brought in more than just the organic search results, but incorporated other types of search, which before had been separate searches only on their own, like videos and images, for example. But we've seen them expand the use of images in search and into carousels and now into these blocks or packs. But all of those are familiar, but they're just the tip of the iceberg. They're just the start of what is happening in the search results, much of which, even to us SEO professionals, is somewhat opaque or even invisible. So for example, here are some things that we've been finding in recent months. Some of them showing internationally, some of them just showing in parts of the world, some of them may be tests, or things that are actually in development and being rolled out. One is this Q&A box, which so far we've only seen in India. So kind of overtaking the role of a site like Query, where these are not questions that are already answered. These are questions that you as the user have an opportunity to answer and give your opinion on, or even to, as you see at the bottom there, ask the community, generate a new question that would go out to others. We're seeing these featured snippets being used in different ways. So featured snippets for a long time was usually just a text-based feature, having bullet-pointed points or a brief paragraph answering the question. But now we're seeing things like a featured snippet with an image carousel. And you might not even at first think this is a featured snippet, but look at the bottom. Look right underneath the gray car there, the third car over, and you see about featured snippets. It sure is. Another is featured snippets with video clips in them, and only video clips. So that's the only thing. Also notice the buttons across the top there, the disambiguation or ability to quickly add or refine a search right within the featured snippet box. Another feature of these video featured snippets now is to go directly to the clip that answers the question. So we know a lot of like how-to videos on YouTube, for example, tend to have a lot of introduction and fluff at the beginning, but now Google has the chance to pull out exactly just what is the answer to the question and jump you right to that. We're also seeing them, you may have noticed, doing that with even text posts now, where they will jump you when you click through right to the part of the page, the web page, that answers the question that you had put in. Popular product carousel. Again, just a different kind of search manipulation that you're not seeing everywhere and you haven't seen in this form, but we're seeing more and more of. A job pack, so actually doing job listings. There's just all kinds of new areas. You know, flights and hotels were the things that we always use as examples before of where Google was taking over the role of sites like Travelocity or hotels.com, and now even for, you know, monster.com, job sites like that, job listings appearing right in the search results. And again, I want to emphasize all of these things, in addition to being very odd and different kinds of results. Remember that wherever these appear, the organic web results, the things that you and I, when we do our SEO work, we're always trying to optimize and rank better for, those things are getting offset and pushed further and further down the page by all of these things that we're seeing. So advanced knowledge graph results. The knowledge graph and knowledge panels have been around for a long time, but we're seeing Google do more and more sophisticated things with them. So here in a search for the climate in Dubrovnik, Croatia, we see not only a month-by-month graph, but also links to other information that we might want to know, including like what's the weather right now. Google anticipates maybe if we want to know the climate there, maybe we're planning a trip there. So it gives us a link to travel guides and flights and hotels. So much more advanced and combinative uses of the knowledge graph. Here's an interesting one: find results on. So Google being a search engine of search engines, as it were, leading us to other places where we can do searches for the results that we're looking for. And mobile reviews have been around for a while, but we can see them sometimes expanded in ways like this, where again, they're just occupying a lot more of the real estate on the search result pages. Newer one here, and some of the next ones are going to be from mobile, is visual stories in mobile. So if you're familiar with stories in something like Instagram, this is almost an exact copy of that. So this is a search for things to do in San Diego. And on mobile, you get these little story cards. If you click on one of them, it opens up and it looks almost exactly like an Instagram story. It's a series of slides that are timed, that have, you know, visuals and maybe a little bit of text on them. So just a different way of presenting information in the search results. Another rare one here, but existing out there, is the popular mobile carousel. So showing you for a particular query that you might have, the things that are most popular about that. Here you're looking maybe to travel San Diego, so here's a selection of popular trips, again presented in a carousel form. Top questions answered, just a different way of presenting that, and here presenting them from the users that answered the questions. So putting those authorities out front. And then just even things like old things that have been around for a long time, like related searches in mobile, showing up in different ways, different formats, some of which again take up more room on the search page. And remember, my whole theme here is going to be moving your thinking from ranking to real estate on the search results page, and how much more radically we need to be thinking about real estate when we think about optimizing for SEO. So things have definitely changed. Let's take a big picture look here now, just at an actual search result page. So this is back in 4 years ago, October of 2016. And this is an actual search for just the term hotels. So we can see here that the main thing on the page is ads. There are 3 ads. One of the ads does have some expanded site links, inner site links, so that even takes up more space. But our first organic web result is at least in the first fold here. In other words, back in October 2016, we were seeing at least one web result without having to scroll. And by the way, I'll just stop for a second and say I used the term a moment ago, organic web result. And that was very intentional. Earlier this year, Danny Sullivan of Google pointed out when people were just saying organic results, they're saying that these search features are pushing our organic results down the page and making them invisible. And he reminded people that a lot of the search features the things that are not the traditional 10 blue links that we think of, actually are organic results. For example, a featured snippet, for sure. That's algorithmically determined, and it is a result from a web page and has a link, or sometimes multiple links, that you can click through to get to that page. So technically, those are organic results as well. So I use the term, along with Danny here, organic web results, to talk about the traditional blue link that goes directly to a website. So back to the point here, that in 2016, at least in the first fold on desktop, we were seeing at least one organic result. Here's the same search from this past month. And you can see that I had to zoom way in on the screen capture to even get it all in. So there's the ads. It's the same kind of level of ads, but now we have this huge map pack in there and other information. And the first organic result is now pushed right off that first fold. And by fold, just to be clear here, I mean the part of a user's screen, or the part of a search result page, rather, that is visible on the average common resolution of a user's screen. It's going to be different, of course, for desktop versus mobile, but in any case, what a user sees without doing any scrolling. So now, in 2016, for that same search, that hotels.com web result is invisible unless the user chooses to scroll down the page. And this even applies, this kind of a real estate expansion, I should say, even applies to individual search results themselves. They have expanded over the years. So here's from a few years ago, search for Capo Bay Hotel. And we get this pretty simple result. It's pretty much the traditional organic web result, the blue link at the top, the green indicator of the URL, and then a 2-line meta description. And this even has a couple of little very tiny internal links here, a little bit hard to discern even what those are. Then a short while later, a couple years later, same search. Now we're getting a rich result here, where we have not only more information in the header in the blue link and in the URL line, but now we have a rating line. We have other information that's above the meta description. So the result is beginning to expand. You can see it's not hugely bigger, but it is bigger in terms of real estate, vertical real estate on the page, than that first result. And then finally, a more recent search for that, you can see the huge amount of space that same result is taking up. So again, we see expanding search real estate happening even with the individual search results themselves. So it doesn't have to be a featured snippet or a people also ask button that's pushing your result down the page. If you're the number 2 result for this, you got pushed further out of reach to the user over the years just by this result expanding, and by the search, or rather the organization, taking advantage of things like structured data to get richer results that take up more search real estate. In fact, what we've seen from our SEO clarity data across thousands of our clients, billions of web pages, is we researched this recently, and we've seen that there's over 1,200 plus unique features that can show up in a Google SERP. Now, that's everything from an ad to a featured snippet to a people also ask, to reviews, to site links, to all kinds of rich results. And admittedly, a lot of those things are things that are very rare or only show up for very specific kinds of queries. But it's amazing to think that there's over 1,200 different variations of things that can show up in a Google search result. Now, 200 of those are found in more than 2.2% of the keywords. So these are the common ones. That's still a large number, and it's still a lot of things to contend with. So let's now get into, this is the part where I was going to told you and teased you that I was going to show you some things that haven't been shown anywhere else. You're the very first to see these. This is a very recent study that we conducted, again, looking at over almost 1.4 million keywords across a wide range of industries to see what exactly the state of the SERPs are today. And I think some of these statistics are going to be very interesting to you. It may be surprising, maybe shocking. Our first number is 21. And that's the average number of listings on the first page of Google. And we mean by a listing here is anything that takes up space on the page, anything that's a result. So again, could be an organic web result, could be a featured snippet, people also ask box, a video carousel, anything on the page. This is the average number. Don't think in terms of 10 anymore. It's actually double than that. And since it's an average, in many cases, it's a lot more than that, things that are taking up space on the search result page. 57.1%. This is the percentage of keywords with something other than an organic web result in the top spot. So in far less than half of all of the queries we looked at, remember 1.4 million queries in keywords, an organic web result was not at the top of the page. 25.9% is the percentage of keywords with no organic web results in the first fold. So a quarter of all the results we looked at, you could see no organic web result without scrolling down the page. And 40% is how far down the page the first organic web result is when they even show in the first fold. So this is just looking at ones where there's at least one organic result in the first fold. And even then, on the average, it's at least 40% down the page. So all of this tells us that our focus can't be on ranking alone anymore. If you're just looking at ranking, you're missing a whole lot of the picture. In 2020, it's all about visibility. Are you actually visible? How visible are you? How hard is it for a user to actually even see your result, let alone decide that they're going to click on it? That's what we are leading our clients to optimize for, to think about, to strategize on, rather than just rankings. So the question here is, can you even be seen? That's what you need to be asking yourself about these days, not just do we rank and how high do we rank. We're moving our clients from share of voice thinking to share of visibility. Share of voice is a good old traditional marketing metric, which just basically means how much of the attention that's out there in the marketplace is occupied by your brand. In SEO specifically, it's usually used as, are you one of the brands that shows up frequently for searches for the set of keywords that you're interested in? That's your share of voice. But we're moving people to think more in terms of share of visibility. Like, what is your actual visibility in the search marketplace? How much are you showing up in a way that users are actually likely to see, and let alone click on your results? We think that's a much more critical way to think. So let's talk quickly through some ways of how we would measure that. How do we measure visibility in the SERP? There's a number of different methods that can be used, and there's tools out there, including our own visibility share, that use some or all of these. None of them use all of them that we do. And all these are things that you can find ways to do on your own if you're not using those tools. But one way is by pixel depth. And this kind of is the most intuitive, perhaps, saying like measuring how many pixels down the page your search result is. So for this particular brand, we see here in our tool measuring pixel depth that for the keyword hoodie, that over the course of a week that they dropped 551 pixels, and there's 551 pixels further down the page. But for hoodies, the plural, they actually rose 389 pixels. So it became that much more visible. What changed there? Maybe their ranking increased, maybe some search features changed. Google took something out of the SERPs or made it smaller. Some visual change there. You'd have to go look to see what that is. The next way of thinking about SERP visibility is in terms of folds. We already defined a fold before. The fold is either on desktop or mobile, how much a user with an average screen resolution sees before they do any scrolling. So at SEO Clarity, we talk in terms of first fold opportunities as a way of thinking and strategizing about visual search or search visibility. So here in this search result for hoodies, we see that at the average screen resolution of 1028 by 765 on desktop, there are some ads up there, and then we see the first organic search result is inside the first fold. So we call that a first fold opportunity. If search features and ads are taking up all of the first fold space, so there's no first fold opportunity. There's nothing you can do other than trying to get into, if there's a featured snippet up there, or a people also ask, or an image carousel, trying to optimize to get into that. But there's no organic ranking opportunity to be visible in the first fold if there's not a result there. But in this case, there is. So this competitor, this domain here, if they just optimize a little better and they move up position, they're moving up more than they think because they're moving into the first fold. And all of our research shows that appearing as a result in the first fold has a marked increase on your click-through rate over just being the first result otherwise. And remember, with all of these, again, you could use a tool like ours, but you can also look at the SERPs for a keyword to see where it's positioned and see its actual visible position on the page. So another place is first page opportunities. This here in our tool, we measure this and saying for this keyword dresses, we can see in a particular week that there were 17 results, meaning, again, all those kind of things that can appear on the page, whether search features, ads, organic results. But then a week later, it had gone down to 14. So either their ranking for dresses went up, or the search page changed and some features went away or got smaller, some combination thereof. But the opportunity now has increased. If there's less competition on the page, then this becomes a more valuable keyword. And by the way, that's a key thing to keep in mind here. This is not just a ranking way of thinking. It's also about a way of thinking about how you evaluate your opportunities. If the SERPs are too crowded and it's going to be too hard to get your keyword visible, then that keyword might be less valuable than a keyword where you can get more visible. Another way is by looking at what we call true competitors. And this is saying our true competitors now in search are not just other brands or other companies who are ranking in the search results, but these search features again. So here in this case, you see at the top of the highest ranking competitive domains or results are things that are all search features. People also ask, a local pack, PPC ads, etc. And finally, a way that's proprietary to us, but I think a good way of thinking it makes it very comparable, is something we call visibility share or share of visibility. It's a percentage that tells like how far up the page you are, how much of the page you possess before any or after everything else is shown on the page. The higher the percentage, the higher up you are on the page, the more visible you are. And it's a weighted percentage. It takes in other factors like how much do the things above you, how much are they likely to be clicked? How many opportunities are there for them to be clicked? And weights that in. So it's just a way of thinking, of comparatively thinking in terms of like, what's the total value here, taking visibility into account. Let me finish by showing you a quick case study here of a client and how they made use of this visibility thinking to increase their click-through rate and therefore increase their traffic in a highly competitive situation. Sparefoot is a great aggregator of moving and storage spaces, and their problem was, as they came into the COVID era, that the SERPs where they were competing were just so overpopulated and their click-through rate was low. And their hypothesis was that if they could grab more SERP real estate, rather than concentrating trying to rank higher, just grabbing more real estate, taking up more space on the page, that they would increase their CTR. So they employed these two tactics. They added structured data to wherever they thought that they could earn a rich result to expand the actual result that they were getting, their ranking result on the page, and take up more real estate. And they also targeted and attempted to capture search features wherever they could, where that seemed to be an advantage. So first of all, they identified the SERP features to target. They looked at their competitive situation. What are the SERP features we're competing against that are taking up real estate, and which of those can we get? They decided to go after people also ask boxes and image carousels in particular. And here's their results. Now this is just for the pages they optimized with FAQ schema, but they saw similar improvements across the board for everything that they tried here. The first two you see are major increases in organic CTR and their rankings just by optimizing in this way for more search visibility. But from the visibility thinking standpoint, the other two are critical as well. So they actually push down their competitors' visibility in search, making it less likely that people would click on their results just by increasing the size of their own results in the search result page. So the question here that you need to be asking is not how are you ranking, but how visible are you? And I'm interested to hear from you how that will change your thinking and your strategy as you prepare SEO into 2021 and beyond. So thank you very much. It's been wonderful to be with you today. I enjoyed presenting this to you, and I think we're ready for any questions that you might have. Thanks again for letting me share.